Hey, board gamers, BJ from Game Gumbo here, back in the Gumbo pot. This time with a review of FantasyForm, a brand new game from Button Shy Games. It's a solo game by Lucas Gentry. Let's get right to that Game Toppers LLC table and see how it plays. Basically what this game is, you are part of the alchemy school, you're an alchemist, and you've heard that there's a rival alchemist that is trying to use their powers for evil. So kind of a good versus evil type of thing. You are a regular alchemist to attack the rival and defeat the rival who starts out with 5 hit points or whatever it says in the form. You need to be able to turn yourself into this fantasy form. So that form is in these cards. Button Shy Games are known for their 18 card games that have way more game packed into just those 18 cards, and this is no exception. FantasyForm uses these multi-type cards, multi-use cards in so many different ways. So generally speaking, the top of the front of the card is going to be what that card is. So for instance, this is an artifact as a torch. It's the thing that you start with. You start with an alchemist, just in a basic form. You start with a companion, a guide. You start with 10 money, called shards in this game. And then you start with 1 artifact that gives you a little special power. But beyond that, it also can be flipped around. As you can see up here in the ethereal deck, these are potions that you can buy. And that's an integral part of the game that I didn't quite understand at the start. Buying and selling those potions in the market is going to give you the shards you need to do the damage against the rival. The only way to do damage is to become an ethereal form yourself and then get enough shards to do damage to them. So generally speaking, it's 4. Some of them have a little bit different rules. But already we got 2 uses for the card. On the back side of the card, it also has 2 things. Actually, generally speaking, 3 things. This is probably the most fun part of the game for me. The back side of the deck consists of encounters. On your turn, unless you have to deal with the rival, on your turn, you're going to basically go step by step through the 3 cards you have on this side of the board. So, to give an overview of the board, I've got my alchemist. I've got an artifact. If I buy another artifact, I got to replace this one and put this one back into the market. I've got my guide showing how much money, shards in this instance, and I have nothing in my pouch. If I buy some potions, they'll go down here. If I sell those potions, and that's one thing that's not clear in the rules, they'll go back on the left side of the market up here. And then to start the turn, I'm going to start with the first card to the left, but I'm going to play the Outlands Encounter. So we're out in the Outlands, we're trying to find this alchemist, but we got to deal with these good and bad things that happen to us as we walk around and explore. So we look over here and it says, for instance, in this one it says you may buy any number of essences for 1 shard less than the listed market price. So when I get to the market phase, it's going to be cheaper for me, which means I can buy some and then turn around and sell them for a quick, tidy profit. The next one says, I go to the second card and it says Forge Encounter. That one tells me that I have to take a damage or even 2 if I'm already in elemental form. I'm not at this particular time, but I would have to take a damage by sliding, using this cord, of course, to slide down, because even your little alchemist has multiple parts on it. And then the last part is this third card, and that's the market. And that's where I can buy potions, if they're available in the market here, for the listed price here. In this case, I've got that Outlands Encounter, which lets me buy any number of them for 1 shard less. And I kept losing every game until I finally figured out, okay, figure out what the alchemist is, then buy something that's going to help me against that one. All right, so now that I've gone through these 3 things, I check the top of the deck, and if there's 1 or less in the market, then that means I got to go to the rival. But I don't have to, so I'm going to explore. And by exploring, it's very simple. It sounds confusing in the rule book. It's super simple. You're just going to discard the one to the right out of this little market, slide it over. These are basically your upgrades. So you're sliding your upgrades over. Then you'll flip this card over to reveal another upgrade and slide the encounters over. And then the rightmost potion, I'm going to flip over to reveal a third encounter. Now, to start the game, I've got a torch, and that torch allows me to look at the rightmost card on the back and see what's coming up. And you want to use that torch to try and game the system in those first rounds. Now, eventually you're going to need to get rid of the torch. Number one, there's a lot of cards in there that don't like fire, so you're going to take damage. Number two, it's a good power early on, but at some point you're going to need some, battle axe or something else that you can use that's going to give you some protection or give you some other cool stuff. Same thing with the guide. The guide is very helpful early in the game. It says once per turn you may move the rightmost card in the ethereal row to the left side of the ethereal row. So if I've looked at a card from the torch and I don't like what's coming up, I can bump it to the left. Now I don't know what's the next one, but it's probably going to be better. That's the law of average means it's probably going to be better. So, all right. So I've done all these things here. I've got my discard set up, and then I take my next turn. And so we'll keep doing that until eventually these cards are down here. Hopefully at some point, and we always discard them this way and sideways. Hopefully at some point I'm going to have enough to buy a form. Let's say, we'll do that later, but at some point if I only have one left, instead of exploring, I'm going to go right to doing this. So at that point, I'll look for the first one that comes up, and in this case it's Earth. And the alchemist transforms. Now we've got a timer on that alchemist. It starts with 4, and if it ever reaches 0, I lose the game. So I use this. Now remember, all these cards are multiple use. So if it was my form, I would be using my health on the right side. And the beauty of that is when you do turn into a form, you become full health. So even though you've gotten pretty low, at some point you can get your elemental form and fill up all the way back. But if it's the rival's form, then we use the left side. And so I'll just put this here to denote that the rival is full strength. That's a pretty tough form because I'm going to be taking 2 damage a lot unless I can start. So this is one where I would probably, if I was playing this one, I'd probably want to chip away a little bit at it to get it below that 5. So it's only doing 1 damage to me after that. I had one where I only had 1 turn left, and I had that discount to where it only took 3 shards to do 1 damage. So I just loaded up as best I was playing in the market, buying and selling. I felt like the banker from that Chevy Chase movie, Christmas Vacation, where it's like, give me somebody on the phone and give me somebody else while I'm waiting. That's what I was doing. I was just buying and selling as much as I could. And somehow I got up to 12 right before it was time for the rival. And I spent all 12 to destroy the rival before I was down to 1 hit point. So I was going to lose. So the real key to this game is that marketplace. That took me the first 2 times playing on the basic level, which I got destroyed. I just didn't get the concept. I thought this was, your typical dungeon crawl where I'm trying to buy stuff and then go out and smash things. There's an economic level to this game that is really fun if you like that kind of Euro strategy thing. I'm constantly looking at the market to try to see what's cheap now, but what essences are going to be more expensive later. For instance, let's say these were reversed, okay? And I can see that this particular essence, which is the radiant essence, this one here, which is radiant, which is 7, but next round it's going to be 11 and 10. So if I had the money, I could buy a couple of those. And there's some special powers that will say you can buy it for half off. So in this particular case, rounded up, I would be spending 4 if they were in the market, with the potential for selling 1 or 2 of them for twice the price. So buying 2 if they're available at 4, or buying 1 at 4 and then another on a regular price, or whatever your cards are manipulating, you want to manipulate that market to try to zing up as much as you can and get to that 10 or 15 and 20 as quickly as you can. Now, do you need to buy a form right away? No, I don't think so. I didn't buy mine until like at least turn 2 or so, the encounter over there, because I wanted to know what that rival was and what the form was going to be. But generating the 20 with a little bit extra. Oh, that was another mistake I made. In my second game, I made the mistake that as soon as I got to 20, I bought my farm because I was like, oh, this is perfect to match up with the rival. And that left me with 0 shards. So I couldn't get my economy started again. So pro tip, don't do that. Get 21, 22, or 23, 23 preferably, before you buy your farm. And that way you can start your engine again. Because, boy, if I've got a con with this game, if I've got a complaint, it's if you get down to 0 or 1, it's really hard to get that engine started. It's like a big diesel train engine, right? When it comes completely to 0, when it's at a dead stop, it takes forever to get started. Same thing in this game. That's my one complaint. It's really tough. I had to actually take a loan. There's one of these cards in here that is the guild loan contract right here. And I'm sure that's why Lucas Gentry included in here. I just had to take that loan, get 4 shards, and then I was stuck with that artifact because I never could get 5 to pay it back. Jason Dinger would be happy with that loan. He loves putting loans in his game. And that's what the guild loan contract had. So it did help me win. But boy, it was in the third game, it did help me win. But in that second game, I didn't figure that out, or I didn't see it. And I stayed stuck forever, and the rival just kept chipping away at me, because every time I'm coming back, I'm rotating this, and I'm taking that purple damage, and I just didn't have any kind of engine to get started. Now, not all the encounters are bad. Some of the encounters are actually pretty good. They'll give you free shards, or I love the ones that give you a free essence if it's available in the market, and then you sell it right away. Or the ones that let you buy half off or buy for a 1 or 2 discount. I love those because I'm going to manipulate the market at that point. So that is my one complaint, that the game can be a slog if you have made bad decisions. But is that a complaint about the game or a complaint about the player? I'll let you decide on that one. It's probably the latter. On the pro side, I have really enjoyed my first time through reading through the little encounters. They're very short. The flavor text is very quick, but it kind of gives you that story of going through. It reminded me a little bit of the first Ryan Lockett games, like Above and Below, where you had a little tiny bit of flavor text and a little story. It was sort of like that in miniature form. So I really do like the exploration part and moving the marketplace. I'm a big fan of that. You can also reset the difficulty. I like playing it on the beginner's level because I'm just not very good at these games. But you can start with less shards if you want to make it more difficult. And there's some lagniappe. They sent me a copy of the expansion. I've not played it yet, but as is typical with Button Shy in these solo games, there is a 6 cards expansion. 2, 3. Yep, it's usually a 6 card expansion. And this is called Frozen Over. By the way, I've not always been a fan of Button Shy's art, but this game has absolutely fantastic art. I wish I could do some credit for him, but the art in this game is just fantastic. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I apologize. Dmitry Krivenkanin, your art is fantastic in this game. I've really enjoyed the art here. These cards, and remember, these cards have so much packed on them that it's kind of hard. It's amazing to think they can even get art on these cards, but they really did. There's a lot of great art of the different artifacts and the different forms and the companions, and also the graphic design. There's all these little symbols, the tags they call them, and the tags are there for the encounters and different actions. It'll say something like, if you have fire, you take a damage, or you'll get 2 shards unless you have this, or if you have a mace, you'll get a bonus. So the tags are kind of important, and after a while I started to learn which ones I like and which ones are going to hurt me depending on the game. But the expansion called Frozen Over, it dives back into the world, but this time it's got the typical Ice Age Blizzard, just like Magic the Gathering when it went Ice Age early on. It's got that kind of a scenario. So you're dealing with a new form called Ice, which is, you may optionally be considered to have, you can optionally have some additional tags, and some of these tags are ones that are important in some of the encounter cards, so that's pretty good. It also has more encounters, so you end up with 6 new encounter sets. And remember, It's not 6 because there are actually 12. You've got the first one's the Outlands, and then the second one, the Forge one. So, and of course, they play differently as they go down the road with the different markets. And these are more market cards, so you've got ranges from 1 all the way up to 11 on the Radiant. So another way to play with the market. Now that I've looked at the expansion, I mean, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't even throw it in there. I mean, you just add the upgrade cards to it, do the regular setup, and you can throw in any more expansions that come in. Okay, so when this video is finished, I'm going to go right to playing this one because I didn't realize sometimes the expansions are something different. There's just more cards and more ways to play. So I like that. As to the game itself, once I got the understanding that half of this game is a market manipulation and an economic game, and the other half of the game is trying to figure out what that alchemist is going to do and equipping your character to defeat that one. Once I figured that out, that there's kind of two halves of the game, I enjoyed it a lot more. I admit it was my fault. I was slogging through the game, and that's because I just wasn't very good at the market part or understanding how these cards can affect with the alchemist. Once I got that, I really enjoyed it. I've played it a bunch of times now, mostly on the beginner level because that's just how I play. But I enjoy it, and now that we've got an expansion, a little bit of Lanyap, I've got some more plays in to get it. So thumbs up from me on this one. If you like solo games, if you like the theme of this kind, it's not really your traditional fantasy. It's kind of a little bit different with these alchemists that are trying to gear up for each other. And if you like customizing your own character, then I think you're going to like this one. Cons are, if you don't like economic style games where you have to do the market manipulation, then you might want to stay away. But other than that, this is a good one from Lucas Gentry. I enjoyed playing it. I want to thank our friends at Button Shy for sending this review copy for us to play. And if I get a chance, I'll try to stream it live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Board Game Gumbo, where we play your games live on TV. So check that out if you get a chance. And until next time, Laissez, bon temps rouler.